This is what my parents did to me. Judith sat quietly on the old wooden chair in their living room, her eyes staring at nothing. Her mother, Mrs. Gloria, was pacing back and forth, clearly excited. Her father, Mr. Thomas, sat on the edge of the couch with a slight smile on his face. "Judith, are you even listening to what we're saying?" Mrs. Gloria asked. Judith blinked slowly and looked up. "I heard you, Mama. You said someone came to ask for my hand in marriage." "Not just someone," Mr. Thomas said. "Kenneth. Brother Kenneth. The same one that leads opening prayer every Sunday. The same one that drives a Lexus and owns a house in town." Judith's heart dropped. She had seen Kenneth before. He was always well-dressed, always carrying a Bible. People in church respected him, but something about him always made her uncomfortable. His eyes were cold. His smile never reached his eyes. "I don't want to marry him," she said softly. Mrs. Gloria's eyes widened. "What did you just say?" "I said I don't want to marry him," Judith repeated, louder this time. "Are you all right?" her mother snapped. "Do you know how many girls are praying day and night to be chosen by that man? And here you are, saying you don't want him." "Mama, you don't understand. I don't love him. I don't like the way he looks at me." "That's nonsense," Mr. Thomas said. "He is a good man, a man of God. He has money. He has position. What else do you want?" Judith stood up. Her voice shook as she spoke. "I want someone I love. Someone I can trust. Someone I'd choose for myself." "You're being childish," Mrs. Gloria said. "Marriage is not about love. It's about stability. Kenneth will take care of you. He has already promised to build a shop for you. You should be thanking God." Judith felt her throat tighten. "Please, just let me say no. Let me wait for the right person." Mr. Thomas raised his voice. "You are not in a position to say no. This is not about feelings. This is about your future. You will marry Kenneth." That night, Judith cried quietly in her room. She clutched her pillow and whispered prayers, hoping that somehow they would change their minds. But the next morning, plans had already started. Her mother was making calls. Her father was meeting with Kenneth's family. Days passed like a blur. Judith felt like she was moving without direction. People came in and out of their house. There was music, food, and celebration. But Judith didn't feel joy. Her smile was forced. Her steps were heavy. On the evening before the traditional wedding, she sat outside with her best friend, Kamsi. "I feel like I'm being sold," Judith whispered. Kamsi looked at her with sad eyes. "I don't like it either. But you know your parents won't change their minds." "I wish I could run away," Judith said. "I wish someone could just take me away from all this." Kamsi held her hand. "I'll be here for you. Always. Just don't lose yourself in all this." The next day, Judith became Mrs. Kenneth. She sat beside him as family members danced and cheered. Kenneth looked proud. He wore a white agbada with gold embroidery. He smiled for the pictures. But he barely said a word to her. When it was time to go home, Kenneth opened the car door for her. She stepped in without a word. He drove in silence. The road felt longer than usual. Her heart was heavy. "You'll get used to everything," Kenneth said suddenly, without looking at her. Judith turned her face to the window. "I don't want to get used to it." Kenneth scoffed. "Well, you're my wife now, so you better try." Judith said nothing. She just stared at the night sky, hoping something, anything, would change. The first week after the wedding, Judith tried to stay hopeful. She told herself things might not be so bad. Maybe Kenneth was just distant. Maybe with time, they would grow into each other. But deep down, she didn't believe it. Kenneth barely spoke to her. He woke up early, went out, and came back late. He didn't ask her how she was doing. He didn't sit to talk. He didn't even eat her food sometimes. One evening, Judith waited for him with his dinner on the table. When he finally came in, it was already past 9 p.m. "Good evening," she greeted gently. Kenneth didn't answer. He dropped his keys on the table and walked straight to the bedroom. She followed him slowly. "I made rice and stew. Should I serve you?" He looked at her briefly. "I'm not hungry." "But you've not eaten since morning," she said. I said I'm not hungry, he snapped, then pulled off his shirt and entered the bathroom. Judith stood there, confused, not knowing what she did wrong. That was how it started. He complains about anything and everything. Nothing she does pleased him. Days turned into weeks. The silence turned into anger. And one day, the anger turned into something worse. It happened when Kenneth lost his job. He came home angry that afternoon. Judith didn't know yet what had happened. She smiled when she saw him and tried to hug him. But he pushed her away. What is it? She asked, worried. I lost my job, he said without emotion. I'm sorry. What happened? She asked, reaching for his hand. He pulled away. Don't act like you care. I do care, she replied softly. You don't. You're just pretending. That night, he didn't eat. He sat alone in the dark, staring into nothing. Judith sat in the bedroom, unsure of what to say. The next morning, she gave him space. She swept, cleaned, cooked, and kept everything quiet so he could rest. But by evening, when she brought food to him, he exploded. I told you to leave me alone, he shouted, pushing the plate out of her hand. The plate crashed to the floor. She stepped back, shocked. Do you think food will solve anything? He asked, his eyes wild. I'm just trying to help, she said. He stepped closer. You think I'm useless now, don't you? No. Kenneth, why would you think that? Then he raised his hand and slapped her. Judith froze. Her cheek burned. Her eyes watered instantly. She looked at him, hoping it was a mistake. But he just turned away and left the room. That night, she cried silently on the bed while he snored beside her like nothing happened. The beatings didn't stop after that. In fact, they got worse. Sometimes it was over small things. Sometimes he didn't even need a reason. He just got angry and took it out on her. Judith started to lie to cover up the bruises. When neighbors asked questions, she smiled and said she fell in the bathroom. When Kansi asked how married life was going, she replied, It's fine. But it wasn't fine. It was hell. One Sunday afternoon, after church, Judith tried to open up to her mother. They sat under the mango tree outside her family home. Mama, she said quietly, what if I told you Kenneth hits me? Mrs. Gloria's eyes shifted. Hits you? Like how? He beats me, Mama. When he's angry. Sometimes for no reason. Mrs. Gloria looked away. Judith, I'm not saying it's good, but marriage is not easy. You must hold your home. Don't let small things scatter it. Judith stared at her mother, stunned. Small things? Mama, he beats me. Don't raise your voice, her mother warned. Do you want people to laugh at our family? Do you want to bring shame? Judith stood up slowly. Her heart felt like it was breaking in pieces. The one person she hoped would fight for her had just told her to stay and suffer in silence. As she walked back to her house that evening, she didn't feel like a daughter anymore. She didn't feel like a wife either. She just felt invisible. Judith started to feel like a stranger in her own body. She smiled in public, but at home, she was breaking. Kenneth had become a man she feared more than she loved. He didn't just hurt her physically, he hurt her spirit. One day, Judith went to the market to buy a few things. On her way back, she helped a young man who had dropped his phone and wallet. He was thankful and gave her some money as a token of appreciation. Judith didn't want to take it, but he insisted. Please, I insist. If everyone was like you, the world would be better, he said. She smiled and finally accepted. Later that evening, she returned home. Kenneth was already fuming with anger. She gently greeted him and entered kitchen to unpack what she bought. Just as she was about to return the money, Kenneth walked in and started asking her where she got the money from. As she was about to explain, he snatched the money from her hand and shouted at her to talk before he kill her. A guy I helped today gave it to me. I thought you might need it, she said, trembling. Kenneth's eyes narrowed. A guy gave you money? Yes, she said, confused. He dropped his things. I helped him, and he gave me this as appreciation. Do I look like a fool to you? What? Judith asked, stepping back. You're sleeping with men now, ABI, he shouted. No. Kenneth, I would never do that, she cried. But he didn't care. He pushed her to the floor and kicked her. Again and again. Judith screamed and begged, but he wouldn't stop. When he finally walked out of the house to go meet Cynthia, his so-called business partner, Judith lay there, shaking. The next morning, her face was swollen. Her ribs ached, but the worst pain was in her heart. Later that week, she tried to talk to him. That night, while he lay on the bed scrolling through his phone, Judith sat at the edge and whispered, "Kenneth, please." He didn't look at her. "Please, could you stop beating me? I'm not well. I'm tired. I'm losing myself. Please stop hitting me." Kenneth sighed and turned over. "If you don't want to get beaten, stop behaving like a prostitute." Judith stood up and left the room. She felt like she couldn't take it anymore. The following week, another fight broke out, worse than the others. Kenneth hit her so hard she almost passed out. Then he stormed out to Cynthia's place again. This time, Judith didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just stood in the middle of the living room, staring at the mess around her. Slowly, she started throwing things. First the pillows, then the cups, then the plates, one after another. She screamed and shouted, letting out all the pain she had held inside for so long. When Kenneth came back and opened the door, he found her smashing a flower vase on the floor. "What the hell is this?" he shouted. Judith turned and laughed. And she continued breaking and scattering things. Kenneth rushed at her and beat her again. This time, he dragged her into the room and locked the door. He picked up his phone and called his doctor friend. "Bayo, I need your help. My wife has gone mad." An hour later, Dr. Bayo arrived. He looked at Judith through the open door and frowned. "What happened to her?" "She's losing it," Kenneth said. "Can you inject her or give her something to calm her down?" Dr. Bayo shook his head. "Kenneth, this woman is not mad. She's suffering. She needs help. Take her to the hospital." "I said give her something," Kenneth barked. Dr. Bayo stared at him in disbelief. "I'm not doing anything. She needs rest, not drugs. If you can't handle her, then let her go." With that, Bayo left. Kenneth locked the room again and left the house, furious. Judith waited for the sound of the gate closing. Then she reached under the bed for a tiny key she had hidden months ago, the spare key to the bedroom door. Her hands trembled, but she managed to open it. She tiptoed out, grabbed her handbag, and left the house barefoot. She walked quickly down the street, ignoring the pain in her legs and the tears in her eyes. That night, she arrived at Kamsi's front door. When Kamsi opened it and saw her friend, bruised and weak, she gasped, "Oh my God, Judith, what happened?" Judith collapsed into her arms. "I am done." Kamsi held her tight. "You're safe now. You hear me? You're safe." Kamsi helped Judith inside and sat her down carefully on the couch. Her face was bruised. Her arms were scratched. Her eyes were tired. "Wait here," Kamsi said softly. She went into the kitchen and returned with warm water, a towel, and balm. Judith didn't say much. She just sat there, staring at the wall, her hands shaking. Kamsi knelt beside her and cleaned her wounds gently. "You should have told me earlier. You don't have to carry this alone." "I was ashamed," Judith whispered. "I thought I could handle it." "You're not weak, Judith. You just loved the wrong man." For the next few days, Kamsi took care of her like a sister. She cooked for her, gave her clean clothes, and made sure she rested. Judith began to feel human again. One afternoon, while Judith was sitting on the balcony with a cup of tea, Kamsi joined her. "You remember that guy who came to my birthday party last year?" Kamsi asked. Judith frowned a little. "Which one?" "The tall, fine one. Brown skin, neat beard. The one you said looked like someone from a movie." Judith smiled faintly. "Andrew?" "Yes," Kamsi laughed. "He's been asking about you." Judith's smile faded. "Kamsi, I'm not ready. I can't even trust anyone right now." "I understand," Kamsi said. "But he's not rushing you. He just wants to check on you." Judith nodded slowly, but said nothing. That evening, Kamsi stepped outside to answer a phone call. When she returned, she walked over with a little smile. He's here. Judith turned sharply. What? You told him to come? Relax. He just wants to say hi. If you're not ready, I'll send him away. Judith hesitated. Then she sighed. Let him in. A few seconds later, Andrew walked in. He was calm, well-dressed, and kind-eyed. Hi, Judith, he said softly. I hope I'm not disturbing. She shook her head. No, you're not. I've been worried about you, he said. Kamsi told me a little. I just wanted to check on you. Judith looked down. I've been through a lot. I know, he said. And I'm not here to pressure you. I just want to be someone you can talk to. Judith looked up slowly. That's kind of you. From that day, Andrew would visit once or twice a week. Sometimes they didn't talk much. He'd just sit with her or help Kamsi in the kitchen. He never tried to touch her or say too much. He was just there. And slowly, Judith began to feel safe again. Meanwhile, back at her former house, Kenneth was getting comfortable with his mistress, Cynthia. She moved in with her loud makeup, flashy clothes, and sharp tongue. At first, Kenneth enjoyed the attention. Cynthia cooked for him, danced for him, and gave him the praise he liked. But it didn't last. One day, he tried to control her like he did Judith. Why are you talking to that guy outside? He asked. Cynthia raised her eyebrow. Which guy? The one with the bike. I saw you smiling. Cynthia laughed. Are you okay? Kenneth grabbed her wrist. Don't play with me, Cynthia. She pulled away, angry. Let this be the last time you touch me like that. I am not your wife. What will you do? He sneered. Cynthia didn't answer. She just picked up her phone and walked into the bedroom. 2 days later, while Kenneth was sitting on the porch, a group of young men walked in. You're Kenneth, right? One of them asked. Yes. Who are you? We're here to greet you on behalf of Cynthia. Before he could react, they descended on him. Punches, kicks, slaps. They beat him until his face was swollen and his pride shattered. When they were done, they left him groaning on the floor. Cynthia stepped out, looked at him coldly, and said, I'm not Judith. Then she walked away with her bag and never came back. That night, with his body aching and face bruised, Kenneth sat alone. His phone was silent. No wife, no mistress, no peace. That night, he felt what it was like to be beaten, and he felt fear and deep regret. Meanwhile, Judith was getting stronger. Slowly, the shadows under her eyes started to fade. She smiled more often now, especially when Andrew came around. He never forced her to talk. He never brought up her past unless she wanted to. And somehow, that made her feel comfortable around him. One morning, as she helped Kamsi in the kitchen, she turned and said, Kamsi, I think I'm finally breathing again. Kamsi smiled. You look better. You laugh again. You even eat more now. They both laughed. That same week, Andrew invited Judith for dinner at his house. He made the dishes himself and waited for her with excitement. She wore a simple dress Kamsi helped her pick out. Nothing loud, just something soft that matched her spirit. Andrew smiled when he saw her walk in. You look beautiful, he said. She laughed lightly. It's been a long time since someone told me that. Dinner was nice. They talked about random things, music, food, childhood stories. At that moment Judith felt like a woman again, not a victim. When they got back to Kamsi's house, Andrew walked her to the door. I'm not rushing you, he said. I just want you to know that if you ever decide to move forward, I'll be right here. Judith nodded. Thank you for being patient with me. The next morning, while Judith was sweeping the sitting room, she heard a knock on the gate. Kamsi went to check, and her voice suddenly changed. She is not here, she said. Please, Judy, come out. I know you can hear me, he shouted. She is not here, Kamsi flared. If you don't leave here, I will call the police. When he left, Kamsi went back inside. The following morning he came again and started knocking. "Judith, it's him,"
Kamsi said.
Judith froze.
Kenneth.
He looked thinner, tired, and bruised. He stood at the gate holding a small bag. "Please," he said, "I just want to talk." Judith stepped out, calm but guarded. "What do you want?" she asked. Kenneth looked at her with tired eyes. "I've lost everything. Cynthia is gone. I'm alone. I was wrong." "You were more than wrong, Kenneth," she said. "You destroyed me." "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I want to make things right. That's too late," and with that she slammed the door at his face. The following day Andrew visited with the things he bought for her, and while they were talking inside, he came again. She excused herself and went to talk to him. "Judy, please come back home. I feel lost without you." Before Judith could answer, Andrew stepped outside. "Is there a problem?" he asked, standing beside her. Kenneth's face changed. "So this is where you've been? With him?" Andrew stepped forward. "Leave now, or I'll call the police." Judith raised her hand to stop him. "Andrew, let me talk to him." Andrew looked surprised, but he stepped back respectfully. Judith turned to Kenneth. "You beat me until I lost myself. You made me believe I was nothing. Now you want to fix it because you're alone." "I've changed," he said. "No," she replied. "You're just desperate." Kenneth stepped forward, but Andrew blocked him. "Don't try it," Andrew warned. Kenneth looked at Judith one last time. "I still love you." Judith shook her head. "If you loved me, you wouldn't have treated me like that. You never loved me. You loved control." Kenneth left quietly that day, but a week later, he came back again. Judith was outside watering the flowers when he appeared at the gate. "Please, just one more chance," he begged. Andrew tried to intervene, but Judith held up her hand. "This is between me and him," she said. Andrew stepped back. "I know I said I forgave you," Judith said to Kenneth. "But forgiveness doesn't mean going back." Kenneth's eyes pleaded. "I need you." "No," Judith replied. "I need myself." She turned and walked back inside. Andrew stood by the doorway, watching her. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. Judith looked at him, then nodded.
"Yes,
"I am." Andrew didn't say anything. He just reached for her hand. And this time, she didn't pull away. She held it firmly. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share.